I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your participation during this presentation that I'm offering to you, that I'm sharing with you. So I want to be very thankful to you. I'm very thankful to this beautiful life. And today's date is Sunday, March 29th, 2020. Saúl Ríos-Jiménez is my name. And the topic that we want to cover today, this educational topic, is living a life free of violence. Living a life free of violence. Let's start. So let's make sure that we have that we take notes. So take a notebook or a piece of paper. Make sure that you write the date when you watch and listen to this educational information. And we are going to start with the following: a vision with good intentions. A vision with good intentions. So in other words, it's like the goal or goals that we want to cover through this topic. So make sure that you take notes. Take notes, write your name in the note, and then take notes and the date. So our goal for this presentation is to continue learning and practicing helpful ways to commit ourselves to honor a life free of violence. So this is a number one goal mostly for every single topic that we cover. So we want to make sure that we continue practicing helpful ways to stay violence free. And number two, always we do our very best to maintain our commitment to create a safe space at home. Always making sure that we create a safe space at home, violence free. And number three, in addition, we remind ourselves to remain honoring the values and principles of being noble men with word. So this is according to Jerry Tello. I forgot to put the date, though I had various sources from him that I totally forgot to put the year of his publication. But Jerry Tello is a significant maestro, teacher, instructor that developed the Círculo de Hombres in the 1980s. And that's what we implement and practice as part of our healing circles that we process weekly. Let's see. Principles of a noble man. I believe we have covered some of these principles, but we want to review. So number one, a noble man is a man of his word, being honest, truthful to his word. Those notes from a noble man is a man of his word. These notes were taken time ago by participants who have been in the healing circles. And this is what they stated, right? Being honest, a noble man is a man of his word, which means being honest, truthful to his word. And number two, a noble man has a sense of responsibility for his own well-being and that of others in his circle. Responsible for his actions, priorities, creating a safe environment. So being responsible for his actions, always considering his needs and his family's needs. And of course, our social environment needs. Always creating a safe environment. And number 3, a noble man rejects any form of abuse, such as physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, to himself or others. So lives a life free of violence, treats himself, his family, and others with respect. And number 4, a noble man takes time to reflect, takes time to pray, and takes time to include ceremony in his life. Has to do with meditation, has to do with reflection, and has to do with the spiritual balance. This is what Jerry Tejo states as the principles from a noble man. A noble man takes time to reflect, pray, and include ceremony in his life. In regard to pray, this is going to be for those who have their personal belief and way of practicing his or her spiritual balance in a very personal and unique experience. And principles of a noble man continues right here. A noble man is sensitive and understanding, being a good listener, being compassionate, and being respectful means being sensitive and understanding. And a noble man is like a mirror, reflecting support and clarity to one another. What one sees on others is what one is. You're my other me, and I am your other you. Anything you do to me, you do it to yourself. And anything I do to you, I do it to myself. That's, I think, is the meaning of a noble man is like a mirror reflecting support and clarity to one another. What one is, what one sees on others is what one is. It's a reflection. We are a reflection of each other. There is a writer that says that if you don't like what you see around you, just close your eyes for a little while and then open your eyes again to see how you see and what you see. In other words, has to do with perception, has to do with cognitive processes. That is, not what we think is always what the reality is. In other words, if you see or understand things differently than other people, and if you thinking or the way you see things creates conflicts with other people, then that's a good sign to breathe in and breathe out and try to distinguish if what the conflict is could be you instead of what you see. In other words, as the saying says, it's not always my way or the highway, because my way or the highway may not be right, then may not be the essential or the expected circumstance or experience of the way things are supposed to be. So let's not come right away to conclusions. We always we should always try our best to think things through first in order to confirm what we see or what we hear or what we understand is appropriate, is healthy. The next one says, a noble man lives these values honestly and with love. A noble man lives these values honestly and with love. Determines to understand and apply these values for his well-being, for his family's well-being, and for others' well-being. Always living these values with honesty and with love. I mean, I think that if we consider these principles and values to continue being an able man, I think it's helpful. These values are helpful. These values are meaningful. It's a way of being. It's a way of allowing ourselves to continue doing well. And with the main goal primarily to stay violence free. Let's see right here. Living violence free is manifested by making sure we create always a home safe environment. One more time. Living violence free is manifested by making sure we create always a home safe environment. That's the main goal. By creating a safe space, we also show the expected way to our children. The way of love, the way of respect, and the way of integrity. I mean, creating a violence-free home environment, that's what we show to our children. We show, love, respect, integrity, those values, those principles. Educación, which means providing values and principles to our children. Education, that's when they go to school and get their learning, academic experience. But if they have no educación, if they have no values or family principles, pues, then what's going to be the point, right? It's okay to have a degree, it's okay to go to school, but if we don't provide to our children family values of love, respect, and integrity, then what's going to be the value of an academic certificate? And also, we also teach and show to our children a vision. We show them a vision of being based on the values and principles we teach to our children. And I want to say that one of the most valuable, powerful ways of teaching a vision to our children, the way things are supposed to be, is loving our partners, loving our wives, loving our living partners, being loving, being caring, being compassionate, being faithful, and being committed to our relationship is also being committed to our children's well-being and balance. Now, there may be some couples who may not have a stable, healthy, okay relationship due to their own, personal issues and difficulties. That's something that, the relationship, the couple is to continue working on in order to remain offering a safe, loving, stable environment to children. Though when it comes to domestic violence, then that's another story. That's something more serious. When there is domestic violence, either the either he is the one being violent or she is the one being violent. It happens from both sides, or from any other, sexual orientation. Domestic violence. It's a very bad thing that creates a lot of not only physical damage, but also emotional damage, trauma to our victims, to the victims and to our children. So this is another kind of, issue. Some couples may have, disagreements and kind of mild conflicts. But when it comes to be verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, and physically abusive to the partner, then that's not okay. That's something that creates a lot of instability and danger at home. Okay, let's continue. Breathe in. And one more time. Now, creating a safe family environment, violence-free. Let's see what we have. Allow yourself to reflect on the damage you have done. Allow yourself to reflect on the damage you have done. Yes, if the individual has been violent to his or her partner, the individual being violent is the one who is to allow himself to reflect on the damage he or she has done to the victim. To reflect means to think things through, to acknowledge, which take us to acknowledge the damage you have done. The individual being violent to the victim has done. To acknowledge, to reflect, allowing oneself to consider deeply what he or she has done is not okay. And then to acknowledge the serious damage he or she has caused to the victim, to the children, due to his or her violent behavior. The other one is take responsibility and accountability for the damage you have done. Now, taking responsibility and being accountable is different. Being responsible means, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. That's very easy. But to be accountable means to pay for what you have done. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are parked somewhere in a public place. You open the door of your car and then you by accident you hit the other vehicle next to you, the other vehicle's door, and the owner is coming, and then he goes, oh my goodness, look what you have done to my car. I barely purchased this car. So, and then you say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, it's my bad, or I'm so sorry, um, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. But then the other person says, well, I know you are sorry and you acknowledge, but who's going to pay for the scratch? You scratched my car. I mean, that's going to cost me money, and I don't want my insurance to pay for it. Do you have any insurance? And the other person says, uh, uh, I think so. I think so. Now, this example lead us to acknowledge that we have done some damage to the car. But just saying I'm sorry, I won't do it again, it doesn't solve the problem. What the person needs to do is say, I'm so sorry, here is my insurance, or I'll pay for it, here is a check. I mean, that's an easy way of explaining it to some kind of non-human damage. But when the individual has been violent to his or her partner and or children, it's okay to say, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. But now, how do you become accountable? Being accountable means that we will not do it again, that we are going to create always a safe environment, always being respectful, and fully acknowledging and accepting that the person was violent to his or her partner. Full responsibility, full accountability. I mean, domestic violence, we already know 2020, it's a crime. It's a serious crime. So when the person is taking responsibility and accountability, that person stops blaming. That person stops being rude, disrespectful, and hateful to the victim. So is taking full responsibility and accountability, and the person has a restraining order, that person is to respect the restraining order. Some judges may modify the restraining order, such as no, you may be allowed to contact the victim for the visitations with the children, right? Let's say. Or the victim goes to court and asks the judge to modify the restraining order. Obviously, the victim is, to do the victim's program, and the individual is to do certain domestic violence classes, individual sessions, in order to assure he or she is not going to continue using violence. But these are very delicate circumstances, because nothing will guarantee that the individual is not going to be violent. If he or she has done it once, how likely is it that he or she is going to do it again? So, the taking responsibility and accountability for the damage you have done is a number one thing to continue living a life free of violence. So, okay, let's continue. Allow yourself to regulate your emotions instead of rejecting them. This is a very significant principle right here, because one of the main goals is for you to continue learning how to regulate your emotions. It's okay to be angry. But it's not okay to start throwing things, slamming the doors, the road rage, name calling, punching walls. No, 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 no. That's not a healthy anger. That's not a healthy way of coping or managing anger. It's okay to be sad, but not to the point that you allow sadness to affect your mental status and then become depressed. It's okay to be scared, but not to the point that you allow fear to freeze you or to experience and re-experience panic attacks. So these are just examples, right, that I'm giving. Obviously, when it comes to individuals who suffer from depression, from anxiety, those are delicate conditions. Individuals, more than support, more than coaching them, they may require some kind of psychological evaluation, some kind of psychotherapy to help them process the symptoms of depression, anxiety, and or any other kind of mental serious condition. Some people may require psychotropic medication to treat depression or anxiety. But from a mild perspective, one of the main goals for us is to continue learning how to regulate our emotions, such as, implementing calming techniques. Breathe in and breathe out. So the calming technique of breathing in and breathing out, is very powerful. It's very helpful. Along with breathing in and breathing out, we have something we call positive thinking, positive self-talk, positive self-imagery. So these techniques are supposed to help us to get in touch with our thoughts, feelings, and actions in a healthy, appropriate way. Though the practice is to be consistent in order for these interventions or techniques or tools work or to work. Let's continue. Foster your motivation to continue becoming a noble man. Of course, consistency in practicing the discussed interventions to continue being noble men is very significant. It's necessary. So it's a daily practice experience. It's not only because I'm doing the program or because the court has ordered me, but it is a continual, necessary practice in order to stay violence-free and continue showing the way to our children. So apply palabra to be consistent with being a noble man. Palabra, as all of you know, palabra means talking from your heart. We do the talking circle. We do the talking stick ceremony in our healing circles. And through the palabra or talking stick ceremony, palabra tlatoli word, means I'm about to speak from my heart. This is the way I feel. This is the way things are going for me so far. These are my cargas, my baggage, my difficulties, my struggles. But I also share how great I'm doing. Those what we call within our traditional healing circle, círculo de hombres, regalos, gifts, great news. Is not only sharing what's bothering us, but also sharing how great we are doing. And also what we need as extra supportive help to continue doing great. Learn and apply calming techniques toward creating a safe space. I believe I already mentioned that. But once again, personal reflection, meditation, spiritual balance, emotional balance, physical balance, mental balance. The more we practice those 4 balances, the more we are going to continue being calm, being safe, living a life free of violence, but also, going through a process of recovery, going through a process of healing. So there is always a, painful past. And, the past is always kind of bothering us through one way or another, consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, whatever you want to name it. It's always there. And sometimes we do things we know to some degree we are not supposed to do. We may overreact to situations. We may take things very personal. And perhaps those things may have a connection with the past. I don't know. But if we are acting, behaving in or reacting in ways that are creating more issues, then we need to pause and discuss, talk to see, what's going on, right? Because we don't want to continue through that cycle. La plática cura. That means talking about how you feel helps. Oh, yeah, helps a lot. Of course, we need to talk to someone who is not going to judge us, who is not going to make us feel that we are bad, but someone who listens, someone who provides reflection. And that's what we do in the healing circles. That's why when we come to our groups as one, we listen to each other through the palabra ceremony. You already know that. Of course, we don't do it right now, sadly speaking, because of the crisis that we are going with the virus. But we do it. We do it, and hopefully we'll go back to our healing circles. And that's what we do. We listen to each other. We respect each other. We understand each other. And we create a safe, accepting environment. Do more listening than speaking with. Do more listening. Okay, let's see. I think I made a mistake here, but it says do more listening than then speak with palabra. No, that's fine. So do more listening. That means let's listen more. And then we speak with palabra, with respect. Let's do more listening. Listen up, listen to your partner, listen to your children. Listen to what they are trying to tell you. And when we listen, we understand. When we listen, we show compassion. When we listen, we show understanding. Then we speak with palabra. We speak with wisdom, understanding. We speak with palabra, with wisdom. And we transmit healing and balance with respect. Okay? So here you have this interesting way of creating a safe family environment, violence-free. And what do we have right here? We have the sacred eagle. We have the sacred buffalo. Remember, the eagle teaches vision, love. The buffalo teaches respect and wisdom. Palabra. And conclusion from our topic today. Here we have some questions. What are you applying to continue living a life free of violence? What are you doing to continue living a life free of violence? These questions you will need to answer in a piece of paper, remember. What are you applying to continue living a life free of violence? How do you show you are living a life free of violence? Number one says, what are you doing to stay violence free? What are you applying? What tools are you using? Then number two, how do you show you are living a life free of violence? Means how do you demonstrate? How do you show you are truly living a violence-free environment? And number three, what does it mean to take responsibility? If I'm responsible for what I have done wrong, how do I show it? What do I mean it? What do I mean by taking responsibility? And what does it mean to be accountable? What does it mean to be accountable for what I have done that is not okay? Remember, being responsible is one thing, being accountable is another thing. As you can see, so please, take your notes, do your reflections, always write the date, your name, the topic, and your answers on a piece of paper. So when we come back, we are going to bring them back to our healing circles and share what we have learned so far. I want to thank you deeply from my heart for your time, your participation, and let's continue doing great. You all have my contact number. Please contact me if you need to talk to me through these times that we are going through with the virus. But through this method, I'm sharing these teachings and these topics that you are supposed to know. Thank you for your time. Be safe. How do you demonstrate you are a nobleman? That's another question. How do you demonstrate, how do you show, how do you prove you are an hombre noble? You are a nobleman. Okay? So please answer these questions. Take your time, and hopefully soon we are going to gather again in the healing circles. Hopefully. Breathe in. And breathe out. for your time and participation.